Action Social Development Fund, obstacles have emerged. First was a case filed at the High Court by a lobby group which complained that the fund is similar to the CDF kitty and that there was no public participation before it was created. Already the kitty, which was allocated 4.1 billion shillings in the last financial years, has been suspended until the case is heard and determined.
Whoever has taken us to court will actually see that these women, given a chance, can do something.
We had to use all our salary and we had to use bother a lot of our friends and everything else, but now at least you have some business. When you go down there, you are able to concentrate on something that.
But before the suspension, a total of 2.1 billion shillings had already been allocated to the 47 women representatives. But the question still remains, how many Kenyans are aware of the kitty and has it made any impact at the grassroots level?
Lakini hizo pesa hazijafika huku mashinani na hatujui kazi ya hiyo pesa ni nini. Wengine wetu hata wanawake, biashara zetu zimedidimia.
Hii pesa imepewanwa lakini haifanyi maendeleo yoyote. Kama kwetu tuko tu hivyo.
Now my women rep Otara, she's complaining all the time that she has not seen the funds. So if the funds could be there, we could be seeing great achievement in this country.
The kitty seeks to help the recovery of sexual and gender-based violence survivors, youth who have dropped out of school, support women groups, orphans and vulnerable children. It also seeks to nurture young talent. Their colleagues in the National Assembly and who run Constituencies Development Fund Kitty are however not a happy lot, especially after all the 47 women reps were allocated 2 vehicles each, a saloon car and a 4x4 vehicle, all fueled and maintained by the taxpayers.
All members of parliament, whether they call themselves women reps or what, who were given these vehicles and accepted them, must be charged with the offense of abuse of office and corruption and want of integrity. And we want to see prosecution going on.
This affirmative development, we don't have any clear law that guides it. This can be another opportunity maybe for scandals and all that.
Anybody saying that the accountability is not being checked is not being honest.
However, in some counties, there is tangible evidence that women and the youth have already started benefiting from the kitty. In Kiambu, residents benefited from the purchase of a bus, which is used by board members when visiting women in the county. But with the obstacles, will it survive?
This is one of the reasons as to why some people are saying, do we really need this position called women reps? Because first, we've ended up bringing people here who are not those women we wanted to empower politically.
The kitty is a national fund consisting of monies not less than 0.5% of revenue allocated to the national government. Before the High Court had suspended the disbursement of the Affirmative Action Social Development Fund kitty, 2.1 billion shillings had already been wired to the accounts of all the 47 women reps. Now the call is for Kenyans to visit their offices and apply for the fund. Chris Dairo for KTN News.
All right, so we have a Twitter poll running tonight. We're asking you if you think the new chair of the EACC, Philip Kinisu, will be successful in his war on graft, if he'll manage to fry the big fish. Our Twitter poll is running, so please do go on and do that. Remember to use the hashtag checkpoint. So far, 11% of you say yes, and a massive 89% say no. He does have quite a lot on his plate, and he will be joining me live next on Checkpoint. Amount of money, and we continue to hear these sums of figures thrown at us every day to the point we're becoming numb. The CS Rotich of Treasury has said this figure isn't quite what it looks like, because there could be issues of documentation. Philip Kinisu says it's not about the amount of money. Could be 600 billion, could be 1 billion. What matters is that this money is lost, and it's a huge amount of money. So what can 600 billion shillings do for you? Well, for starters, let's take a look at our screen now. This is exactly what it can do. Now, if you take a look at the allocation in the last financial year, that's 2014-2015, 287 billion shillings was given to all the 47 counties for development, recurrent expenditure, you name it. So 600 billion shillings would be able to fund the counties for 2 years. That's 287 times 2. plus change. That is what 600 billion shillings can do for you. This is the amount of money that is being lost every year due to corruption. What else can 600 billion shillings do for you? Let's take a big look at our wall right now. You will remember is the plan to build that referral hospital in Eldoret that will decongest the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. There was a bit of scandal around it, but what I want you to remember that is important is that that referral hospital was valued at 50 billion shillings, if you remember your figures right. So if you take a look at those figures, then how many referral hospitals can be built with 600 billion? 12 referral hospitals across the country. That would greatly reduce the pressure on MTRH and on the Kenyatta National Hospital. You can spread these around the country. So I hope you're starting to see the picture of just what 600 billion shillings can do for you. Finally, let's take a quick look at my wall here and the numbers that we've got. Now, 600 billion shillings. You do know the SGR, that's the standard gauge railway that's being built for 327 billion shillings. By the way, we have taken loans for this. But not only will it build SGR, it'll build both the standard gauge railway and 10 Thika superhighways. Remember, the balance out of 327 is 273 thereabouts. Now, the Thika superhighway cost 27 billion shillings, and we got the money, the initial loan for that from the African Development Bank, and then the additional concessional loan from, the Chinese. We would be able to build this without ever borrowing a single cent. I hope this puts into perspective the amount of numbers that we are dealing with and the numbers that we are losing day after day, year after year. 600 billion shillings. That is something for you to ponder on tonight on The Number. Now, I'd like us to move to another big segment that we're focusing on tonight, and that is our tendency to sometimes forget. Now, introduce you a little bit to this story. It was done by Duncan Hayamba a little earlier last week right here on KTN News, and this is in regards to the IEBC probing the two politicians or the two cabinet secretaries who were involved in the campaigns in the just concluded by-elections in both Kericho County and Malindi constituency. And when Cabinet Secretary Charles Keter was asked to respond to that, I'd like you to listen to what he has to say.
2018 tunaunda serikali tukiwa ndani ya serikali. If by coming here and trying to tell my people to vote to this direction or that direction, that is okay.
Well, actually, no, it is not okay. Let's take a look at what the law says regarding, whether cabinet secretaries who are state officials can be involved. Now, this is the Leadership and Integrity Act 2012, Section 23. An appointed state officer or public officer shall not engage in any political activity that may compromise or be seen to compromise the political neutrality of the office. In case that is not enough, let's take a look at another law, the second part of that follows. A public officer shall not engage in the activities of any political party or candidate or act as an agent of a political party or a candidate in an election. Well, that was not all. The Cabinet Secretary for Energy, Charles Keter, had this more to say.
I will never stop commenting. I will not stop commenting about issues. I'm a politician.
Actually, no, you're not. At least not according to your boss, who said this in April 2013 when he and his boss, the President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, were putting together their cabinet. Listen.
These men and women are not politicians. In the cabinet, there will be only two politicians, the president and myself.
And as if that's not enough, when the Director of Public Communications and State House, Munyori Boku, was asked on this very issue, the question came up as to why the President is choosing politicians and bringing them into public office. Munyori Boku had this to say, and this is what he said. The issue of having politicians in the cabinet does not arise because those who are currently holding such posts, that is like Charles Keter and Dan Kazungu, will resign when they take up their positions in government. So essentially you have two different opinions on this issue. But just in case you're looking for a little more clarification on who exactly a state officer is, well, the Constitution will on that Article 260 with the interpretation: a state officer means a person holding a state office. In case you're not clear on a state office, well, a state office involves any of the following officers: president, deputy president, cabinet secretaries, and members of parliament. Lest we forget, these are the laws that are in place in the country right now.
This is KTN News.
KCB women's rugby team beat Kenya Harlequins 40-12 in the finals of the third leg of the Women's Rugby League at the RFUA grounds. The win saw KCB cement its place at the top of the league standings. There's 2 legs to go before the end of the Women's Rugby League.
The Women's Rugby League has only 7 teams participating, which is half the number of the men's team taking part in the Kenya Cup League. The third stop of a 5-legged league paves way for the 4th leg in Nakuru. The third leg of the Women's League was played at the Kenya Rugby Union grounds Sunday. The day was not short of exciting clashes, with the clash pitting league leaders KCB against Nakuru RFC, stealing the show.
Hii Women's League imesaidia sana kwa sababu mostly hatunanga hizi games za kutusaidia tukienda huko nje kwa sababu hatuna more games. So hizi leagues zinatusaidia at least tupate, tuseme si ati tukue fit but tunakuwa fitter on the game.
KCB are the league. The team owes its success to a united playing unit at the Lions Den, where the men's team are the defending Kenya Cup champions.
KCB hiyo relationship hata siwezi sema kwa sababu tuko kama family pale. Anytime tuko pale, kama uko down msee atakuencourage na ujue huyo ni boy, anataka ucheze kama yeye. Hakuna time atakosa kukuambia vitu zenyewe ufanya, anataka kukuteach more.
According to Kenya Rugby Union Director in charge of women rugby, Paula Lanko, the progress to develop the Women League has been slow but sure.
Last year we had 5 clubs, and today I'm very happy and very proud to say we actually have 8 clubs that are represented today. So really having a club or having a league running, importantly, is just the element of the funding, really the goodwill, and we've been able to achieve that.
But how much support is women rugby getting from the union into comparison with the male counterparts?
It is tough, but it's up to doable. Kenya Rugby Union really to ensure that, you know, we do needs to be done and run our game as credibly as it should be run, so that we can attract the goodwill that we once had and the sponsorship that we once had, because the players really do need it.
The league moves to Nakuru on the Easter weekend as players hope to attract more fans each passing day.
Unaweza take tu time yako kuja uone kitu na happen. Usiassume tu ati hiyo game itakuwa boring. Hata wewe unaona umeenjoy.
Well, women rugby is still lagging behind in the country. However, the women rugby players in the country remain resilient and they are working hard to make sure that women rugby will one day be at par with the men's rugby. Lynn Washira, KTN.
That we mulika mwizi mdogo with massive floodlights, but let mwizi mkubwa go scot-free. Those are your views tonight. I would like to read more, but please do get on to the hashtag checkpoint for more on the views from our show tonight. But as we conclude, I would like to leave you with my final thoughts here on Checkpoint tonight. Now, there is no doubt that corruption is a national menace. That may sound an old cliche that gets more tired each time some few billions disappear into thin air. And that is because, for the first time in the country's history, the loss of billions of shillings is no longer shocking. How can it be when it seems to have become a national sport to spirit away some few billions from public coffers and send everyone on a wild goose chase? Granted, every regime has its fair share of scandals, from Kenren in the Kenyatta regime, Goldenberg in the Moi administration, and Anglo-leasing under Mwai Kibaki. But many analysts now say the sheer number of scandals witnessed in the country over the last 3 years alone is historic, not to mention the countless billions of shillings involved. In fact, so severe is the problem that even the president himself has complained bitterly about rampant corruption in his own office. Yet all that would not matter if the men and women who sit at integrity centers were concerned with nothing other than bringing the corrupt to justice.